Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I was going to go over the jQuery tutorial with you. Now, there's no way that we can go through all of this, and much of it is review anyway. Alright? But let's just look at a few things. Again, jQuery is a JavaScript library that's designed to simplify JavaScript programming. I don't agree with this at all. But I do think that once you start learning jQuery, it gets easier and easier. All right, simple example, we saw this one before. This says that, okay, when you click a paragraph, hide that paragraph. Pretty simple stuff. Again, there are examples in here. They even have a mastery quiz, and they have a reference, which is really nice. It goes through the major selectors that are in here. And you notice there's quite a few of them. All right. But when we go through the whole thing, the purpose of jQuery is to make it easier to use JavaScript on your website. Yes, and the way that it makes it easier, more than anything else, is it very much simplifies and you have less code that you have to type in. jQuery is lightweight. Again, its mantra is write less, do more. A lot of different things that you can do with jQuery. Here are some of them. Why should you use jQuery? As it says, there's a lot of JavaScript frameworks, a lot of JavaScript libraries out there, but the number that I had heard was the top 10,000 websites that are out there using jQuery. The top 10,000 websites that are out there that use a JavaScript framework, about 80 to 85% of them were using jQuery directly or in unison with another library. So how do you get started? Well, we talked about downloading jQuery and the fact that you can go out to jQuery.com and you can click. This is actually, it brought you right to the download page. All right, but if you come here, you can just click the button, which also brings you to there. Again, you can download it in a compressed version, which means that all of the white space has been compressed. It only looks like it's about 3 or 4 lines long, but the width is incredibly long. Or you can download the uncompressed version, which looks like pretty much like any other type of file that you would go through. All right. If you don't want to download it, you can use a CDN, which is, I used that in the examples before, a content delivery network. So this says go out to Google site and grab the newest version. The advantage, again, of using a CDN is you don't have to download it. You don't have to host jQuery on your own site. Plus, there's probably a good chance that if the user uses the internet all the time, that they may very well already have downloaded jQuery. All right. The syntax, we've looked at this before, but just to look at it one more time. The basic syntax, the $ means jQuery. Whatever it is you want to select, dot, whatever action you want to take place. Here are some examples. This dot hide would hide the current element. This would hide every paragraph. This would hide all elements that have a class of test. This one, the element with an ID of test. Now again, the document ready is where you will typically put your code. You use document.ready because, as it says there, that prevents any jQuery code from running before the document has totally finished loading. And the reason that that is important is you don't want it where you're trying to manipulate something using jQuery where that element has not yet loaded. Typically, it's going to be something like an image. So they give you some examples of why otherwise, if you didn't put it in document.ready, why when you do that, things that could at least potentially, okay, potentially lead to failure. Now again, there is a certain protocol and a certain way that you're supposed to do this, and that's what they're explaining in here, and that's what I'm trying to explain. And if you said, well, I didn't do it that way and it worked, that's not at all impossible. But again, you could try to hide an element that was not yet created, or try to get the size or resize an element that had not yet been created. If you don't want to write this, because you see them both ways. Sometimes you see it written like this, but if you don't want to write it like that, you can also write it like this. All right. The selectors, jQuery selectors, as it says, allow you to select and manipulate elements. So this would find all paragraphs. As it says, when a user clicks on a button, all paragraphs are going to automatically be hidden. So if we look at that example, there's only 2 or 3, I guess. Okay, well that one was a heading. So there's nothing special about this. Again, I believe that you can save these examples if you want to. The ID selector, remember, starts with a £. The class selector starts with a period. So this would say basically you'd want to manipulate an ID of test. This would say you want to manipulate a class of test. So when we look at the examples here, again, there is an ID of test. So we're saying this is another paragraph that has an ID of test, so that's the only one that gets removed. Okay? This has got a class of test. These both have a class of test, so boom, they're both removed. But the last one does not have a class of test, so it's not removed. So there's 3 paragraphs, 2 of which this is another paragraph. Okay? Now again, this is not an inclusive list, but it's, there's a bunch of examples in here. Selecting everything. Notice there's always a try it. So I can come out here, select everything. That said remove everything or hide everything. You don't typically use the asterisk unless there's something that you want to have happen to every single thing that's on a page. That usually isn't the case. Remember, this is used to select the current element. All right, so that just told it to hide the button when you clicked it. This, all paragraphs with a class of intro. So notice that one has one, that one has one, and the last one does not. Okay? This says just select the first paragraph. This is a paragraph, boom. You can do the same thing. You could have put last there just as well. All right. First child selects the first LI of every UL in this example. So for a UL that has a LI that's his child, select the first child and hide it. So what happens? Did you notice that coffee was removed from both of these? So the first child of this list is coffee. The first child of this list is coffee. Boom. They're both gone. Select all elements with an href attribute. Well, there they are. And we're saying hide them. They're gone. I know this sounds very repetitive, but the idea is you can do similar actions on virtually anything that's on a web page. Even elements and odd elements, I want to mention these because they are important. All right. Notice we've used even. And we said we want all even elements to be yellow. And you go, well, that's not. There's one. No, that's element 0. That's element 2. That's element 4. So even, odd starts with 0. So here we said odd. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, you can put all of your stuff into a separate file. There are exercises there that you can go and take a look at. All right. What are events? Remember, jQuery is an example of an event-driven language. All right, that means that it responds to user actions, moving a mouse over an element, selecting a radio button, clicking on something. So these are your major events. The syntax to handle those events, the name of the element dot click, the name of the element dot whatever. If you put in a function, that's because you want multiple things to happen when you click it. Commonly used event methods, we already talked about document ready. Again, it allows us to execute a function when the document is fully loaded. Click we've talked about as well. Double click, same thing, but you double click it. A little bit, I wouldn't recommend using double click a lot because it can be very confusing. Mouse enter and mouse leave. Notice that when I entered the paragraph, I get an alert up there. That was on the mouse enter event. Mouse leave, same kind of thing. Now when I get out, now I get the end. So you could put one in on mouse enter and one in on mouse leave. It'd be a little bit of overkill. All right. Mouse down. I think that's when you hold down on the mouse button. So now I'm holding down on it. Now I let go. Mouse up, same kind of thing. Now I'm holding down on it. Now I let go. So you can see exactly what's happening in here. This is just a wonderful resource. Hover over it, boom, we get that. Okay. Focus says whatever thing is active, make it gray in this example. This can become important for a lot of reasons, especially when you're working with forms. Blur we've already looked at a little bit. Let's look at it again. If I come here and then I go here, a blur event took place when I went from here to here. When I go from one field to another field, so when I leave this field, a blur event takes place on this field and a focus takes place on that field. They work in tandem with one another. On, as it says, attaches handlers. All right, so that says on click. It's like p.click. All right, but you can attach multiple handlers then. Kind of a neat example. Click or move the mouse over the paragraph. See that? So when I click it, it's going yellow. Otherwise, it's blue and it's gray, just so you can see what's going on in there. Okay? Morning. So what we've done is, in this lesson, is we've gone over the intro stuff for the tutorial. In the next lesson, I'm going to go over effects. I'm going to go over all of this. Just decided. And then we'll go over the HTML, then the traversing, Ajax, miscellaneous, more examples, and references. So that's about 7 more sections. So we'll do each one of those. All right? Be back with those shortly.